Hi, welcome to chapter 15 of The Giver by Lois Lowry. We do have one question that we're focusing on for this, and chapter 15 is very short. Let's take a look at the question first. It is number 3. Numbers 1 and 2 were both answered in chapter 14, but you'll be turning in chapter 14 and 15 together. So question 3, please make sure that you underline, highlight, whatever your key words in the question. Why does the giver ask Jonas for forgiveness? All right, and that happens right at the end of the chapter. Let's take a look at chapter 15. Jonas entered the annex room and realized immediately that it was a day when he would be sent away. The giver was rigid in his chair, his face in his hands. "I'll come back tomorrow, sir," he said quickly. Then he hesitated. "Unless maybe there's something I can do to help." The giver looked up at him, his face contorted with suffering. "Please," he gasped, "take some of the pain." Jonas helped him to his chair at the side of the bed. Then he quickly removed his tunic and lay face down. "Put your hands on me," he directed, aware that in such anguish, the giver might need reminding. The hands came, and the pain came with them and through them. Jonas braced himself and entered the memory which was torturing the giver. He was in a confused, noisy, foul-smelling place. It was daylight, early morning, and the air was thick with smoke that hung yellow and brown above the ground. Around him everywhere, far across the expanse of what seemed to be a field, lay groaning men. A wild-eyed horse, its bridle torn and dangling, trotted frantically through the mounds of men, tossing its head, whinnying in panic. It stumbled finally, then fell, and did not rise. Jonas heard a voice next to him. "Water," the voice said, in a parched, croaking whisper. He turned his head toward the voice and looked into the half-closed eyes of a boy who seemed not much older than himself. Dirt streaked the boy's face and his matted blonde hair. He lay sprawled, his gray uniform glistening with wet, fresh blood. The colors of the carnage were grotesquely bright, the crimson wetness on the rough and dusty fabric, the ripped shreds of grass startlingly green in the boy's yellow hair. The boy stared at him. "Water," he begged again. When he spoke, a new spurt of blood drenched the coarse cloth around his chest and sleeve. One of Jonas's arms was immobilized with pain, and he could see through his own torn sleeve that something that looked like ragged flesh and splintery bone. He tried his remaining arm and felt it move. Slowly, he reached to his side, felt the metal container there, and removed its cap, stopping the small motion of his hand now and then to wait for the surging pain to ease. Finally, when the container was open, he extended his arm slowly across the blood-soaked earth. Inch by inch, he held it to the lips of the boy. Water trickled into the imploring mouth and down the grimy chin. The boy sighed. His head fell back, his lower jaw dropping, as if he had been surprised by something. A dull blankness slid slowly across his eyes. He was silent. But the noise continued all around. The cries of the wounded men, the cries begging for water and for mother and for death. Horses lying on the ground shrieked, raised their heads, and stabbed randomly toward the sky with their hooves. From the distance, Jonas could hear the thud of cannons. Overwhelmed by pain, he lay there in the fearsome stench for hours, listened to the men and animals die, and learned what warfare meant. Finally, when he knew he could bear it no longer and would welcome death himself, he opened his eyes and was once again on the bed. The giver looked away, as if he could not bear to see what he had done to Jonas. "Forgive me," he said. So the chapter ends with forgive me. And obviously he's asking for forgiveness from what we just read in this chapter. So pull your quotes for question 3 specifically from chapter 15, and then make sure that you write out your answers. You need to give a topic sentence. Actually, let's take a look at the worksheet because it's in the directions and I want to remind you of it because we only talked about it that one time. Make sure to write a claim which restates the question and gives an answer. So your topic sentence starts out by you restating words in that question to make a sentence and then gives a quick answer, but is not the support, okay? You have to include 2 text details. What happened here? I don't think you can see it. I didn't share it. Let's try that again. I just clicked on it. Okay, now you should be able to see it. So there's your sentence about making the claim. Include 2 text details with explanation and transition words or phrases. So we once again have ACE, R2, D2. So the A is only in that first one where we're going to answer the question. That's your topic sentence. You're making a claim, what you're going to prove. C is you're going to cite, E is you're going to explain. R2, D2 is the same sort of thing. R is your reason, D is your detail. You need at least 2 of those. So whether your second sentence is going to be your yellow reason, detail, or fact sentence. Okay, that starts with a transition word or phrase. Actually, I take that back. It doesn't have to start with the transition word or phrase because we've talked about burying it in the sentence. So it's your choice how you want to put that in there. But you cannot simply plop the quote down. You cannot put the answer to your question and then just put the quote. You need to have some kind of a transition, some kind of a flow into your quote if you choose to do your quote first. Based on our chart, that's probably what's easiest. You need to explain the quote or the detail that you have and have it connect back to answering the question. Once again, minimum of 5 sentences for each of those. So if you cannot fit 5 sentences in that space, figure out how you're going to do it. Okay. One of the big questions that people will ask me is, does this have to be in pen and cursive? I would absolutely love it if you wrote it in pen and cursive. I will tell you that I truly believe that you handwriting these answers out helps you learn it better. There is so much research about that, but you already wrote the chart once, so you don't necessarily have to handwrite it again. You certainly could type these answers because that's an important skill in this day and age as well. So if you have handwritten on the chart and you type up your written answers to make that fit, that is okay too. Okay, you don't want to type it, but you really don't like cursive. I'm not forcing that issue right now either. You may simply write neatly. If I am struggling to figure out what you wrote, then we have a problem. You must write as neatly as possible for me, please. All right, you have a great day. This is the end of section 3. We'll be meeting together again for chapter 16, which is going to start section 4 of the book. See ya.